Thank you, Jennifer. And thank you to everyone else who's here this evening. I know that most of you here have a child with juvenile arthritis, and the first thing I want to say is thank you. Thank you so much for being here to learn how to support your children. Having supportive parents means the world to chronically ill kids, and you being here right now means that you truly want to support them the best way that you can. As Jennifer said, my name is Kayla Caddy, and I have juvenile arthritis. My story isn't an uncommon one for people with invisible illnesses. I was about 12 years old when my right knee started hurting. I was athletic. I played on a competitive softball team and an all-female hockey team, and was on my school's basketball team. Being an athlete was part of my identity. After a month or so of my knee hurting, my mom took me to our family doctor, who did a quick assessment and decided it was growing pains or a sprain. Classic. He told me to take a couple of days off from my sports and then I should be good to go again. Well, that didn't exactly happen. The next few years were filled with doctors telling me that they didn't know what was causing my pain and fatigue. I saw many different doctors, but none of them could help me. I eventually dropped out of hockey and basketball because they were just too tough on my joints and my fatigue was so debilitating. I hated having to stop playing those sports, but I was happy I could still play softball. However, by the time I was 16, I had to make the hardest decision of my life so far, to quit softball. It was literally my life. I remember the very last game that I ever played. My team made it to provincials that year. We got the silver medal. I was so excited. And then I went home and I took off my cleats and my jersey for the last time. At that point, I was pretty depressed, but I didn't want anybody to know. I felt like there was no hope for my life. If I couldn't even play the sport that I'd been involved in since I was 4 years old, how could I ever actually be happy again? Maybe that sounds a bit over dramatic, but I didn't just lose softball that year. I also lost most of my friends. They all went back to playing the next year and I was left behind. I very quickly became the kid that sat in their science classroom at lunch instead of being out in the schoolyard with my friends. All while this was happening, things at home were a bit tense. My mom didn't know how to help me. She had brought me to many doctors and physiotherapists, and they were all telling us that they couldn't figure out what was wrong. I don't blame her for not knowing what to do. My symptoms were vague and my blood tests were coming back clear. So wasn't I fine? I was angry and I didn't know how to deal with my emotions, so getting upset and taking it out on my mom was an easy way. At that point, I had been diagnosed with chronic fatigue syndrome, patellofemoral pain syndrome, and fibromyalgia. The treatment I was given for each of these were antidepressants and a knee brace. Not very helpful. During my teenage years, I actually ended up being prescribed many different antidepressants. I didn't give them much of a try though, because I was worried about the stigma. I didn't want to take them. I felt like if I did take them, then I would be giving in and admitting that the pain and fatigue were all in my head, like the doctors were saying, that I was a faker. But my pain and fatigue were so real, but so was the depression and anxiety. I felt like I was drowning. I was angry at the world, angry at my family, but even more angry at my own body. Why was it so messed up? I hated it. Why did it hurt all the time? It wasn't fair, and it honestly still isn't fair. Somehow, in the midst of all that, I graduated from high school. I was excited, but I was also terrified. How in the world would I walk that far from class to class? Walking down the halls of my high school was hard enough, let alone like across a full campus. What would happen if my health got worse and I was 3 hours away from home without my mom to reassure me that things were going to be okay? And also, how the heck do you make a doctor's appointment yourself? I had never had to do that so far. Not too long into my first year of university, though, my pain did get a lot worse. My ankles, back, wrists, hands, everything started hurting. And I was really struggling with keeping up. I missed so many classes in that first year because I just couldn't do them. I ended up seeing a doctor at the university health clinic, and after seeing her a couple of times, she decided to run some tests that no one had checked yet. Less than a week later, I got a call saying that my CRP and ANA were very high and that she was referring me to a rheumatologist. Most people would be frightened by such news, but honestly, I was so ecstatic. I could finally see a glimmer of hope again. Somebody actually listened to me and knew what to look for. I was excited. At that point, it had been almost 7 years since the onset of my symptoms, and I had to wait another 9 months to see a rheumatologist. It felt like the longest 9 months ever. But after that first appointment, I left and I immediately went to my car and just cried. But they were happy tears. I had a diagnosis and a treatment plan, and that was the most hopeful I've felt since I was 12 years old. That first appointment was 3 years ago now, and I can't say that everything is sunshine and rainbows. It certainly is quite cloudy some days still. But I can say that I am a lot more hopeful for my future now. I'm now in my final year of my undergraduate degree. I decided to major in psychology. I still struggle a lot with my anxiety and depression, as well as a lot of medical trauma. I am terrified of doctors. After 8 years of being misdiagnosed and told that I was faking my symptoms, I still have a lot of anger and hurt in me, but I'm slowly healing. Each positive interaction I have with a medical professional makes that anger and hurt dissipate just like a tiny little bit. There are still times when all I can do is lay in bed and cry. Sometimes I take a day or two off from work because I know that I'm on the verge of a breakdown. If I don't take a break, I'm not going back in for a while. But I've learned skills to cope with these feelings. I'm now on antidepressants. I've actually given them a shot this time, and they're working quite well. I've also been seeing a therapist on and off for a couple of years now to work through my mental struggles. I live with my partner, who is so incredibly supportive. He knows how to help me when my joints are flaring, how to calm me down when my anxiety is getting crazy again. He knows when I stop laughing at his jokes, it's not just him, it's my depression acting up. I also have several amazing friends who are my rocks. They let me cry on their shoulders whenever I need to. We get ice cream and cry about how unfair life is quite often. My mom and I have a better relationship now as well. I'm working on being more open and honest with her, and she definitely tries to listen more. We've both learned so many invaluable lessons over the past 10 years. I also met a lot of people in online support groups who have similar stories to mine, and it's so refreshing to have people to talk to that know what I'm experiencing. They know the toll that frequent tests and self-injections and pain take on a person. The world feels a lot less lonely now. I guess the moral of my story is to listen. Parents, listen to what your kids are saying and make sure that they know how much you care about what they're telling you. You don't have to have some intricate speech prepared to let them know that you're on their side. Just tell them that you love them and hold them tight, and tell them that you'll do whatever you can to help them get through this difficult time. Being a kid with a chronic illness is so incredibly tough, but having a supportive family can make the biggest difference, even if they seem a bit angry at you at the time. And teens, don't be afraid of seeking help for your mental health. You're going through a lot, so much. And experiencing depression or anxiety is totally okay. It is not your fault, and it's okay to ask for help. Going to therapy or taking antidepressants are not things you should feel ashamed of. You should be proud of yourself for taking care of your emotional health. Mental health is just as important as physical health, and we need to start talking about it some more. Thank you.